Hello and welcome to another episode of the BSB Show, episode number 9, Mr. Burton. The two Michaels with you once again. We are going to look back at what happened at Cadwell Park, and we are going to be all Mystic Meg about what's going to happen at Oulton Park, coming right up. Of course, we must start by offering our condolences on behalf of everybody at Bennetts and Bike Social to the friends and family and team of Paul Bird, the owner of PBM Motorsport, who passed away sadly after the Cadwell Park round on the following Friday. Bertie, you knew him. He was an incredible character around the paddock and with an amazing amount of success in the championship and beyond, World Superbikes and MotoGP and beyond.
Yeah, a really lovely fellow. A lot of people have said it. I think all the sort of messages and social media posts and everything after it sort of suggested that. But he was a real self-made race team owner, really. I think we always laugh about it, but he was sort of the man who made John McGuinness, and McGuinness says, well, I made Paul Bird, that kind of thing. They both sort of jumped in together, they helped each other out, and then Birdie just went on to bigger, real big things after that. 8-time British Superbike champion, ran World Superbike teams, was the factory-supported Kawasaki team in World Superbike for a few seasons, and then I think ticked a box in terms of being a MotoGP team owner, and yeah, it's a real sad. It's really, really sad. There was a lot of, not murmurings, but a lot of people were saying, he's slightly unwell. But everybody just, everybody thought, we'll see him at the next round. And then to hear that news was really sad. It was really shocking. And like you said there, all the condolences to the family, especially to Jordan and Frank Jr. and Lexi, his 3 children. It's really quite sad.
Pretty heart-rending. He's been a huge part of the paddock for so many years and will be sorely missed. And in some sort of, not twist of fate, but it was his riders that dominated at Cadwell, of course. It was Ducati domination. They were back to it after a very unsuccessful Thruxton. They came good, didn't they, at the twisty ribbon of tarmac through the Lincolnshire Wolds. Yeah,
it kind of felt a bit of a... feels a bit of a tribute, really, a fitting tribute to Paul. They completely dominated. Glenn in the first 2 races, especially in the sprint race, completely dominated. And then Tommy in the last race on the Sunday was incredible. Really, he came from I think about 5th or 6th or something like that after the first lap. And it felt a little bit like the Jaws music was coming when you were watching it, because obviously at Cadwell, once you're there with customers, you're stuck on the inside. You can't go to the outside. And we were watching it just by the mountain, and you could sense something was coming. You could sense the Ducatis were coming. And 3 really good races. Ducati back on top. And I think it just proves now that, to me anyway, it feels like it's a 2-horse race between Glenn and Tommy.
Yeah, so 3 wins out of 3 at Cadwell Park, and they go into Oulton Park, having been very successful there earlier this year, and we'll come on to that. Just before we talk in depth about Cadwell and who did well, who didn't, and sort of analysing it, there's been some other news this week, hasn't there, in terms of... obviously, we knew that the Yamaha, McCam's Yamaha team were leaving at the end of the year, Steve Rogers packing up, which left the likes of Jason O'Halloran without a ride, or so we thought. And lo and behold, he's got a ride.
He has got a ride, yeah. Jason moves manufacturers. He goes to the FS3 Kawasaki team for next year. Sorry, the Cheshire Mouldings Kawasaki team, to give it its full title.
Well done.
There was a lot of rumours that Jason was going to be going to that team. After conversations with one rider who is now out of a ride in that team, was a little bit upset, especially after 6 years with that team. I think he felt a little bit pushed out.
This is Lee Bob Jackson.
Yes, yeah. But To be fair, I think a change is as good as anything. It'll be nice to see Jason on something a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Never ridden a Kawasaki, as far as I can gather. He's always either been on a Honda or a Yamaha in the British Superbike paddock anyway. So that'll be nice to see, and it'll be nice to see what Jason can do on that Kawasaki.
And he'll be partnering Max Cook, of course, who's Lee Jackson's current teammate, and he performed very well, didn't he, at Thruxton. Where does that leave Jackson then? Do we know?
Yes, in some way, shape, or form. I'll not say it just yet, but
it's not been announced.
It's not been announced because he's officially not signed anything, shall we say? But I've got a good idea of where he's going.
Okay. Cryptic.
Yeah. So Lee will definitely be on the grid next year. There's no reason as to why he won't. He's a race winner in BSB. And other than
he's still Mr. Consistent, isn't he? He's still scored in every round this year.
I mean, that's perfect for any team owner who doesn't want a big crash damage bill, because as you can see, he's not crashed yet.
Sixth place,
perfect for anyone.
Yeah, 6th place in the championship and only 10.5 points behind Leon Haslam in 5th. So doing well for Kawasaki. Just as a quick aside, actually, speaking of Kawasaki, of course, Johnny Ray's moving as well, isn't he?
He's off to Yamaha.
Yeah. All in a bit of a fumble around, aren't they? There.
Move and shake. Yeah.
Well, what else has happened? Do we have any other news of 2024 yet?
Well, yesterday we're filming this on the, what date is it today?
Tuesday.
7th of September.
Something like that.
6th, 7th, something like that.
5th.
5th. Oh, there we go. I weren't far away. So yesterday, the 4th, it was announced that Jack Kennedy won't be at Martrain Yamaha next year.
Right.
So Jack is now out of a ride. From what I can gather, the team are looking to go in a different direction. His crew chief won't be there as well, Andy Jameson. Mm-hmm. Andy actually builds the bikes in his workshop behind the scenes, and he looks after the bikes during the week, that kind of thing. So there's a big sea change there. In terms of a rider moving over to that seat, I'm not entirely sure. Mm-hmm. There has been murmurings of Danny Kent potentially going to that team. Potentially, there's also been a slight rumour of Kyle Ride moving to that seat.
Right.
Don't know how true that rumour is. I was in a bit of a conversation with someone about that the other day, so I don't know how true that is. But we shall wait and see on that one. It'd be an interesting thing, especially with that team, because I think now they've sort of taken over that secondary Yamaha team. Yeah, in terms of like OMG basically this year, they're sort of the secondary Yamaha team behind McCams. Now McCams are leaving. That's opened up a little bit of a gap for Tim and Sonia at Martrain to take that sort of role.
As exciting, as interesting as it is when we talk about rider movements, it's slightly unfair, and also we're kind of jumping the gun a little bit, because you want to keep something. We take a break for the best part of 5 or 6 months, don't we, between Brands Hatch and then the first round of next year. Yeah. We want to leave something for us to talk about. Yeah. But what I have noticed as well, we've got the time sheets, the classification sheets here of race 1, 2 and 3 from Cadwell Park, and there's a lot less people on the grid, weren't there, including Danny Kent, the aforementioned Danny Kent.
Yeah, so a little bit of how do I phrase this? A little bit of a hangover from the Thruxton crash, but also a bit of a business decision from the team owner. Uh-huh. From what I can gather, the team owner is building apartment blocks in Poole in Dorset. One of the companies that he's working with, or was supposed to be working with, has now pulled out, leaving him with the hefty bill to pay for said apartment blocks.
Right, so you can't go.
So it's a business decision at the end of the day.
Can't go racing.
I think the guy wants to carry on racing, but a business is more important than racing. As far as I can gather, anyway, that's what I've been told.
Gotcha.
People can prove me wrong if you want to prove me wrong.
But even so, there was only 15 that finished races 2 and 3.
There was a few that again came out through injury. So Max Cook on the Friday evening test crashed at the bottom of the mountain. Had a little bit of a head knock, so the team decided to pull him out of the weekend. Unfortunately, Danny Buchan, he dropped it on the right of the mountain just before going up the mountain, and has sustained another knock to his head. So unfortunately, Danny was out of the weekend there. Not sure whether if he's going to be back in time for Oulton Park. So yeah, there was a lot of riders realistically not on the grid this weekend.
Poor boy can't catch a break, can he? He's had a terrible season in terms of little knocks here and there that kind of wrecked his weekends.
Mm-hmm. Massively wrecked his weekend, because on the Friday evening test, Danny was looking strong. Danny's always strong around Cadwell Park, really muscles that BMW around there really well. as you saw from last year, taking 2 victories.
Yeah.
For me, I put a little bit of virtual money on him, shall we say, ahead of the weekend, and it was just unfortunate to see him crash.
He sits 20th in the championship, and he's only scored points in 5 races of the 24 that have been so far. I mean,
Yeah, it's not been a great season for Danny.
Really?
It really hasn't. Whether if I should be saying this or not, I think Eurosport said it seems to have secured a ride for next year. Not in the Cincinnati BMW team. As far as I can gather, he's going to be moving manufacturer to another team, which be quite interesting. Nice to see him. It'll be nice to see him back on a manufacturer that he's had a lot of success on, and a bit of a sea change for him as well. But I don't think Danny will mind me saying this. I think he's very lucky to get a ride after this year. He's had an awful season, but one season doesn't make you a better rider.
No, quite. A proven winner and
Exactly.
and a top bloke as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, before we chat some more, let's have a little reminder of what happened at Cadwell Park with the highlights. Here they are.
Ryan Vickers was on pole position for the sprint race at Cadwell Park for round 8 of the championship, with Haslam second and Glenn Irwin in third. It was Vickers who got the whole shot into Coppice Corner ahead of Glenn Irwin and Haslam. It was almost a tangle between O'Halloran and Tommy Bridewell, with Lee Jackson in hot pursuit as well. Eden also inside that top 8. Glenn Irwin, though, did not wait long to pounce, going through to the lead on the approach to the park corner ahead of Vickers. Through Hall bends. There was a bit of drama here for Christian Iden, and that nearly ended not just his race, but the championship leaders' race as well, as Storm Stacey then squeezed through on Tommy Bridewell. Leon Haslam, though, ran into some trouble whilst in 4th place. A technical issue meant that he pulled over to one side. He still managed to rejoin the circuit and set the fastest lap of the race, though, to bag pole. There was a squiggly moment on the rear for Peter Hickman on the exit of the hairpin, but as the race started to take shape, Tommy Bridewell went through on Lee Jackson to move up into 5th. In the closing stages, the 2 Lamy OMG Racing Yamahas were closing in on race leader Glenn Irwin. Charlie Nesbitt's miserable weekend continued as he crashed out at the hairpin. Ryan Vickers made a move, a lovely move up the inside into Charlie's 2 to take the lead, but the power of the beer monster Ducati came right by him again, as Jason O'Halloran in 4th slowly crept closer and closer as the laps ticked by. So we came to the final lap of the race, though. Kyle Ride made his move, passing Ryan Vickers on the approach to Park Corner. Jason O'Halloran was now within touching distance, but as they came to the line, there just wasn't enough time. It was Glenn Irwin victorious ahead of Kyle Ride, with Ryan Vickers holding onto the podium in 3rd. Leon Haslam was on pole position for the 2nd BSB race at Cadwell Park this weekend, but it was a rocket start from Ryan Vickers on the 2nd row as he got the whole shot into turn 1. Also a great start from Storm Stacey, who got up to 3rd at this point, ahead of Lee Jackson and Jason O'Halloran. Further back, Kyle Ride made a move on Stacey to move up into 3rd place, and then went in pursuit of his teammate Vickers out front and Leon Haslam. Some lovely moves going on further back, but Tommy Bridewell ran into some early trouble, having to go straight on at the chicane, luckily only losing 1 place. The 2 Ducatis at that point, 8th and 9th. Ryan Vickers was full of style over the mountain, but ultimately it didn't work out for him. He crashed out whilst leading to end his chances of victory. This left Haslam out front with Kyle Ride and Lee Jackson as they all began to battle. Lee Jackson was loving this move on the approach to Charlie's. 1 by 1 behind them as Jackson forced his way through to the front. Glenn Irwin was picking them off. Kyle Ride then pulled up alongside Lee Jackson to take the lead of the race. And at this time, Glenn Irwin knew he had to make a move on Leon Haslam and did so beautifully from Mansfield into the chicane. With the laps ticking down, Irwin then went through on Lee Jackson on the back straight on the penultimate lap of the race, and then left it to the start of the last lap of the race to get on terms with Kyle Ride. A nudge from Jason O'Halloran pushed Lead Jackson onto the grass, and that was good enough for O'Halloran to hang on to third. And then on the start-finish straight, the power of the Ducati came roaring by Kyle Ryde, who led over the line at the start of the last lap, but couldn't chase Glenn Irwin back down. A sublime performance from Irwin. It's 2 out of 2 at Cadwell. He wins ahead of Kyle Ryde and Jason O'Halloran. For the final race of the regular season before the points change, Leon Haslam was on pole position heading into race 3, but Storm Stacey came through to take the whole shot and the lead into Coppice Corner ahead of Kyle Ryde, Leon Haslam and O'Halloran, with Jackson ever present and the 2 Beer Monster Ducatis. Haslam immediately, though, fought his way through ahead of Kyle Ryde into Park Corner. Glenn Irwin was well positioned early on and made his move on Storm Stacey to go from 4th up into 3rd, and then had his eyes fixed on the 2 riders ahead. Tommy Bridewell also going much better than he had done in the previous 2 races and in the top 5. Kyle Ryde knew what was going on behind him and made his move down to the hairpin to lead. And the very next corner, Glenn Irwin ramped up the power of his Ducati to go through on Haslam to move up to 2nd. Bridewell at this stage was in 4th, and next target for him was Leon Haslam also. Nightmare for Charlie Nesbitt, having already been battered and bruised this weekend. A horrible crash at the mountain ended his weekend, and Irwin then got out front, moving past Kyle Ryde on the approach to Park. Tommy Bridewell then used the power of the Beer Monster Ducati to go by Ryde and move up into 2nd. Leon Haslam managed to go through as the momentum was lost for Ryde, and it looked like it was going to be a straight fight between the 2 Ducatis. Leon Haslam doing very well to stay in the frame. Tom Need crashed out at Hall Bend, but was up on his feet. Ryder okay. And on the closing laps, Tommy Bridewell made his move, going through on Glenn Irwin on the approach to Park Corner. As the laps ticked by, the riders all grouped up together. There was no room at the inn, and a fantastic comeback ride after what was looking like a miserable weekend. Glenn Irwin fails to make it a treble as his teammate Stotts the Rock. The championship leader, Tommy Bridewell, won ahead of Glenn Irwin and Leon Haslam.
Well, just like with Thruxton, it requires a bit of an intake of breath, doesn't it, with such close racing? And it's nice. It's so good to see. There's not one person that dominates, isn't it? It's like when he comes across the line and they're all coming across together, all within a second or 2 of each other, it's frantic racing, and it makes you really look forward to the next one. And I think we say it every time, and obviously with the title sponsors, so we could entitled to say it, but it's such a brilliant championship.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, and Cadwell Park kind of proved that, because obviously you got both Ducatis in there. You had Leon Haslam on the BMW in there. You had 2 Yamahas in Jason O'Halloran and Kyle Ryde in there. You had Lee Jackson up there as well. Christian Eden just on the back of them. And one man that probably, if we're going to move on to hot and knots, the hottest man for me from the weekend was Storm Stacey. He was in there as well.
Really mixing up. And of course, different manufacturers, different bikes. We saw that Thruxton suited the Yamahas, and Kawasaki's really, didn't really suit either BMW or the Ducatis particularly. But of course, the Ducati, we can just look at the championship. It's been domination throughout, except for Thruxton. And we'll talk about Oulton Park early in the season in just a little bit. But yeah, okay, well, let's move on. Hot or not, obviously the Ducati pairing were very much the hottest. Yep. Who else did it for you?
Well, I've just mentioned him there, Storm Stacey. Really, really impressive. He's started to come out of his skin a lot more now, Storm. I was actually quite surprised at how strong he was. Obviously a tall kid, big kid, muscles it around, and it was actually nice to see him lead the race on the I think it was the 2nd race on Sunday, maybe the 1st. Can't really remember. On the Monday, Monday, obviously bank holiday. I remember saying to him in just at the sort of holding area before they go down. I said to him, "Oh, it was nice to see you finish. Get 3rd in off the line," and he was like, "Mate, I'm getting 1st off the line on this one." And we laughed about it, and I just said, "Well, yeah, you need to pull your finger out," and he literally did. He led from the start, which I was really impressed by. He
was hype man.
He was proper hype man. So it was nice to see. But also Kyle Ryde, Jason O'Halloran, they were fairly hot.
Well, Kyle had 2 seconds and a 4th, so again, doing his championship challenge a world of good.
Yeah, he was really close to actually getting on the podium in the second race on Monday. Just ran it a little bit wide on the grass and nearly sent himself to the moon. He did very well to hold on to that one.
And he sits 36.5 points behind Irwin. So Carl is third in the championship, Irwin second, and of course Tom is leading by 14.5 points.
Yeah, you've got to remember now, though, we're now coming into the crunch time of the season where the points slightly change.
Yes.
So the points now go back to what we know is normal for a win of 25. And I think now second get 22, not 20. And I think third get 18.
Yeah, so it's moving up from 18 as for a win, isn't it?
Yeah,
so.
yeah, moving up from 18 for a win. So the race winners and the podium finishers now get increased points.
And that's for the 3 races at Oulton Park and the following 3 races at Donington Park.
Yes,
and then they get increased further, don't they, for the championship finale or season finale at Brands Hatch.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
So you have 9 races to go.
Yep.
It is coming down to the crunch time. I think technically, I read that anyone of 16 riders can mathematically win, but of course we're really focusing on.
You're expecting people crashing and a few other bits and bats.
Yeah,
but yeah, it makes it interesting.
You're realistically looking at the top 6, aren't you, or possibly the top 2?
Yeah. I mean, stranger things have happened. It will be interesting to see. But the top 5 are only covered by 76 points on there. Top 6 are covered by 86.5.
Yeah.
So, Lee Jackson's still not out of it. If he gets 3 wins this weekend, 75 points, he's clawed back a fair chunk of points on the rest of them. Lee does well at Oulton Park.
Yes, won there, didn't he, last year?
However, so do Glenn Early, Tommy Bridewell,
very much so.
Jason
O'Halloran. While we're talking about hots and knots, I just want to give a shout out to Leon Haslam as well. His bike packed up in race 1, but I think it was like after 2.5 laps. But on the second lap, he'd already set the fastest lap of the race, which stood still. And then he finished 3rd and 4th, I think.
Yeah, 3rd in the last
as
race
well.
on Monday, 4th on the second race, middle race on Monday.
Again, a happy chappy around Oulton Park.
Yes,
as well.
Yeah.
He's speaking of Jaws music, as he did. He could be one to look for.
He could be, and Leon is strong around Oulton Park. BMW works well around there.
Yes, because Josh Brooks won earlier this year.
He was on the podium. Yeah, he was on the podium earlier on this year. So it will be interesting to see this weekend at Oulton Park. It really will. I think you will see Josh and potentially Pete as well coming through the field. They do well at Oulton Park. Obviously, it all depends on the weather. We're now coming. Well, we say we're now coming out of summer.
It's a heat wave.
I've never been so hot in all my life the last few days. So it remains to be seen what the weather's going to be like. But if it's cooler, it'll play into the hands of the BMW a little bit more.
Talking about hots and knots, just quickly to finish off the knots, we've already spoken about Max Cook and Danny Buchan and Danny Kent from their Cadwell Park endeavours, or lack of. But also I just want to touch on Charlie Nesbitt as well, because of course he had such a brilliant time at Thruxton.
Down to earth with a bang.
Not so good
literally.
So good at Cadwell.
Not so good for Charlie this week.
3 DNFs.
3 DNFs. Took a bit of a battering as well, bless him. But I mean, fair play to him. He bounced. He got up and he was on crutches, but he got on the bike and rode. And I mean that high side over the mountain on the last race on the Monday was huge, and he was very lucky to walk away from that one. So a very unfortunate weekend for him. Yeah, a very unfortunate weekend. The less said about that, I think, the better for Charlie and the team. Quite.
Good. All right. Well, we'll look forward to Oulton Park. We'll talk about Oulton Park coming up. But we've got a couple of features to bring you. We're going to... Well, you went to speak to Chris Pike, didn't you, at the Honda Racing? And he is going to tell us all about how to build a superbike.
Chris, welcome to Bennetts BSB Show. Thank you very much for joining us. The premise of this really is to let people know virtually how you guys build a race-winning BSB Superbike. So what do you do on a day-to-day basis, but really how do you start the project? So do you take it straight away from a road bike, or just talk us through it really?
Yeah, so with the with the advent of sort of 1,000cc bikes, engines have become less of an issue. You know, power is sort of normally pretty good from the get-go. So you'd start with a standard bike. You'd put racing suspension pretty much in a standard bike, and then work from there, build from there. Find the weak point and and try to fix it.
So does it literally roll in as a road bike and then you just strip everything off it more or less?
You would keep, normally starting the project from new, you would keep the frame, you'd keep the swinging arm, you'd keep the link, you'd have to change the triple clamps and the wheels and the brakes, so, and the electronics, because obviously we're Motec in BSB.
So how long roughly does the sort of build take, shall we say, from it rolling into the workshop as a road bike to it rolling out as a British Superbike?
With the initial iteration, probably not that long. You know, you can get that done in a couple of weeks, and you build on that sort of as you find what you need. You know, so you'd find, okay, the swinging arm's not up to it or whatever, or the linkage isn't quite how you want it to be, the rear suspension linkage isn't quite how you want it to be, and then you've got the front end of the bike, the triple clamps, the head pipe position and all that. Once you understand the base bike, you can start to move that stuff around, the swinging arm pivot and all those sort of things, and build those adjustments in, and that sort of that can take a couple of years, just, you know, developing all that kind of thing.
How frustrating at times could the development process be? Because this year obviously it hasn't been the best of years, fair to say, for Honda racing, but last year was a good year and the year before was a good year. So how frustrating is it at times to see how positive the development is, but then it isn't, if you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know it's there.
I think, you know, the results this year aren't necessarily due to the development of the bike, but it has stalled the development of the bike, because you can't, you know, it's difficult to move forward from there. But the bike's in a reasonably good place at the moment. There's only a few little weak spots that we need to work on for next year.
Looking at it then, do you enjoy the process of building a British Superbike? Because obviously for people that don't know, you've worked on prototype bikes for quite a long time in MotoGP and things like that. So do you enjoy it more than the MotoGP, shall we say?
It's all different, isn't it? I enjoy what I do now, yeah, because I've got like a free hand well, pretty much free hand to develop what we like, you know, what we want. So it's good from that point of view. You know, when you're working in MotoGP, it's a very controlled atmosphere. All parts are supplied by the factory. How you use them, the parameters they work in, is all very narrow. So you're pretty much doing what someone else tells you to do. Here you have like open freedom to do whatever you want to do, and get the people involved that you know can help you.
For the people watching this, once you leave here at Cadwell Park, then what do you do at the workshop, literally 2 minutes down the road? What do you do during the week? Not just you, but also all the other boys that work there.
Yeah, so the bikes will get, the bikes get taken apart and checked, and you know, because we're working with development material kind of thing, we have to make sure it's not breaking, and you know, so everything's like given a really good clean and check over, and then rebuilt. To be honest, this time of the year is a nice time of the year for us, because it's a bit quieter than the beginning of the year. The beginning of the year with the Northwest 200 and the TT and everything, we don't get a break, and it's really quite hard to keep on top of everything. But now, after the TT, the calendar calms down an awful lot, and it's a lot easier to keep on top of everything. So the guys get a few more days off at this time of year.
just what they want to hear. Really then, where do you see the Fireblade at the end of this year, but then going into next year? How do you see it developing into what essentially is back into a race-winning package?
I think it is a race-winning package at the minute. You know, the guys we've got at the minute are struggling for whatever reasons, but the bike's pretty good. You know, it's not too different to what Glenn Owen was runner-up on. there hasn't been that much, BSB's, everybody gets better every year, but it's not like massive steps. Our bike has some slightly better parts on it than last year, and we just need to use them to the best of their ability, and I think, we've got a good package. So we'll start pretty much where we are, maybe a little bit of engine work, but engine in BSB, you start getting above 230 horsepower, it's quite hard to use, especially around tracks like Cadwell here. It's a law of diminishing returns if you're not careful. You can have like a massive number that you're really happy with on the dyno, but it's actually no good to you because you can't use it anywhere.
Overall, just finally then, what would you say an average cost is of a Bennetts British Superbike? Well, overall,
I don't know. It's getting on. I don't know exactly. I've never added it up. Harv would tell you a lot more accurately, but I've got the feeling it's like 60 grand plus.
Good, fascinating stuff there. Thank you very much to Chris Pike and his colleagues. So we move on. We've got Oulton Park this weekend up in Cheshire, one of my favourite circuits to ride on. It is tremendous. But let's have because we've already raced there this year, haven't we? Already earlier on the season, Brooks, Irwin, and Bridewell, I think, took the wins. But let's have a little look at the highlights from earlier this season.
Josh Brooks was on pole position for the first race of the weekend at Oulton Park, and the rain had cleared, so it was slick tyres all round. Storm Stacey had got up to second into turn 1, just behind Brooks, with Leon Haslam up into third place. Jason O'Halloran was then challenged down into Cascades by Glenn Irwin as Leon Haslam made a lovely move on Stacey to move up into second place. Around Shell Oils, Peter Hickman had made some progress, Andy Irwin as well. Tommy Bridewell was pushing through from the 5th row of the grid. Glenn Irwin then made his move on Storm Stacey to move up into third place overall. Jason O'Halloran then made a pass on Stacey down into Lodge Corner, sitting up the tall rider on the number 79 and moving up into 4th place. And it wasn't long before Andy Irwin and Peter Hickman also moved up a couple of places, but there was drama for Jason O'Halloran around Cascades, unfortunately falling. Rider okay, bike a bit battered and bruised, and Jason O'Halloran will have to try and pick himself up, ready for action in the 2 races tomorrow. That left a bit of a gap back to the chasing pack. Danny Kent at this point had gone through on Storm Stacey, and the leading trio were getting away as Hickman and Andy Irwin tried to close that gap down. In a 12-minute sprint race, Tommy Bridewell from 15th on the grid had got through to 5th place with Andy Irwin just behind, and Peter Hickman had clawed his way back up into contention. However, in the closing stages, the rain started to fall. We were told there was rain flags out as Brooks, Haslam and Irwin made their way around Shell Oil, and then the arms went up for all 4 out front, and the correct decision was made to bring out the red flags, and that meant another victory for Josh Brooks. 4 podiums out of 4, 2 wins to his name, the championship leader. Tommy Bridewell was on pole position for the British Superbike race, the second one to take place here at Oulton Park this weekend, but it was Hickman that took the whole shot, but not for long. His lead was short-lived, crashing at the opening corner after a tight entry meant the FHO Racing rider went straight down on the grass at turn 1, leaving Bridewell out front, and there was more drama to follow. Jason O'Halloran crashing on the approach to Cascades and taking Josh Owens with him. Some good moves early doors from Kyle Ride meant that he went up into second ahead of Andrew Irwin. Leon Haslam was ever present, and yesterday's winner Josh Brooks as well, as Glenn Irwin, despite fighting an infection, managed to get himself up into the top 6. And Christian Hidden looked like he'd made some positive bike changes as well and was in the fight for the top 6 as well. Here comes number 91, Leon Haslam, an audacious attempt at trying to take the lead of the race. He ran wide, allowing Andrew Irwin through, but then fought straight back again into turn 1 to reclaim second place. At this stage, Glenn Irwin back in 4th was 1.5 seconds down, but he soon reeled in the top 3 riders as the laps ticked down and made his move on his younger brother Andrew into Hizzies to move up into 3rd place. And Leon Haslam had a big moment whilst trying to hunt down Bridewell. Looking to make it the first Beer Monster 1-2 for a long time. Irwin then made his move count and stick on Leon Haslam into his east. But there was no catching Tommy Bridewell out front. He put in his fastest lap of the race with a few to go. There was a bit of fun for third place on the final lap into the last corner, but that one in the end went to Leon Haslam, and it was a 1-2 for Paul Bird's boys. Tommy Bridewell victorious in race 2 here at Oulton Park. Glenn Irwin was on pole position for the final race of the weekend in British Superbikes, but it was his younger brother Andrew who came through from the second row to take the whole shot into turn 1 ahead of Glenn. And for the first couple of laps, Andrew and Glenn were 1 and 2, with Josh Brooks in third, until Leon Haslam came through from 7th on the grid to move up into podium contention. Tommy Bridewell, despite a poor start, was coming through into the top 5, and Glenn made his move on his brother, going into P1 on his Beer Monster Ducati. Leon Haslam then went past Andrew Irwin as well, keen not to let Irwin out of his sights. And soon, Tommy Bridewell would go through into third place to try and hunt down his teammate and Leon Haslam in seconds. Kyle Ryde was having a good day. He managed to go through along with Josh Brooks on Andrew Irwin. He just started to fade and run out of grip in the latter stages. A brilliant race developed between Haslam and Irwin. Haslam certainly tried, but Glenn Irwin ultimately would always bite back. Glenn Irwin went up the inside of Tommy Bridewell. Josh Brooks and Kyle Ryde then joined the party. Irwin regained his lead, and in the background, Kyle Ryde also moved up into 4th place. But then Josh Brooks started to fade away a little. Kyle Ryde moved up into 3rd, and that was the crucial move that managed to get him the podium. Leon Haslam tried everything but was not able to catch up to Glenn Irwin, even on the final lap. And as the checkered flag awaits, it was the win and the championship lead for number 2, Glenn Irwin on the Beer Monster Ducati from the Rocket BMW of Leon Haslam and the OMG Yamaha of Kyle Ryde.
Mega, that's how we all think we ride, of course, on a track day. Well, we're going to look at that video and think, yes, I can definitely do that next time. Now, in each episode, we tend to show or offer some support to one of the support class riders. And this time it's the time for Jack Nixon, who was the 2021 Junior Super Stock champion, who tried his hand at Super Stock 1000.
Super Stock 1000 last year.
Yeah, with the FHO.
Yeah. And
then went to Appleyard, didn't he, on the R6?
Yes, it was not officially the Appleyard team. It was somebody who'd taken over the Appleyard team. He did one round at the start of this year and then left. He explains why in this little feature that we filmed with him at Thruxton.
Yeah, so Hickey signed him up, hasn't he? Peter Hickman signed him up for the PHR Performance Triumph in the Quattraplant Supersport class, and Jack's already been out at Thruxton, which is where you spoke to him, and he raced at Cadwell, and he's going to do the rest of the season. Yep. So here is Mr. Nixon.
So, Jack, welcome to Bennetts BSB Show. Thank you very much for joining us. Back on track this weekend at Thruxton on the Trooper Triumph.
Yeah.
Just first of all, talk to us about it. How's it all come about, and is it nice to be back in the BSB paddock?
Yeah, of course. I mean, thanks for having me on first of all, and yeah, it came about. I mean, it's been in the pipeline for a few rounds now. Obviously, I've missed all rounds other than Silverstone, which is. It feels strange really not being in the paddock, but you know, I came up to Brands and try and get things sorted with Hickey, and he's been real good. You know, he's managed to put a bit of a package together for us, and also managed to get a bit of a ride on the bike as well at Cadwell, which I think was really important for me, just because, you know, I haven't ridden a big bike since May as well, so I would have been real rusty coming into Thruxton this weekend. But I think the main thing is, you know, I'm around good people, and it's come about. It's happened quickly. Like it's snowballed quite fast. Obviously, Pete's been on the job, and he knows how to get things sorted. Luckily, so it'll be nice to be back. You know, it feels strange, obviously missing those 5 rounds, like I said, but I feel like it's made me want it even more, if anything. So it just sort of like reiterates that this is the place that I want to be.
Just talk to us about the start of the year, and if for people that don't know and people that really don't know about you. So you started the year with the McAdams Supersport team, and after one round it kind of all went a bit sour, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say sour, but you know, some things aren't always meant to be, and as much as I would have liked to make it work with the team, unfortunately a few things just didn't add up, both my side and their side. And you know, we did the first round together, we had a few issues, and we kind of just called it there, just purely because, you know, we didn't want to get too far into the season, and then for me as a rider then be stuck and not have any other options. I thought it was probably best to just move on from that point, rather than do half a season and then have to leave. So yeah, obviously I wish the team all the best. They're all a good group of lads, and we still had a good first round. You know, like it was my first time in Supersport class, so I got a bit of experience under my belt, and I think that will still stand me in good stead coming into this weekend. So I at least know what to expect a little bit. I know some of the riders around me, and just have an idea of the class, because the races are much longer in Supersport as well than they are in Superstock, which I did last year. So I've had a bit of a taster, and you know, now unfortunately it didn't work with them, but onto different things, onto bigger things. So no, I'm looking forward to it.
Just for people that aren't aware of yourself, just talk to us a little bit about you, because obviously National Superstock 600 champion only a few years ago.
Yeah.
But just talk to us how your career started, where you went, and how you really ended up where you are today.
Yeah, so essentially for me it's a big family thing, because my dad, when he was about 15 or so, he actually worked in a bike shop, left school, which I think seemed to be the thing back then to do, and he raced mainly in sidecars, but lots of years in Grand Prix, and I grew up around it and then started with motocross, and we decided to make the jump over to tarmac in, I think, 2016, and you know, we've been lucky enough to be successful in nearly every class that we've done so far. Went straight into BSB in the KTM RC Cup, which was the equivalent of Junior Supersport about 5 years ago, I think. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like you say, peaked in 2021 so far, when I obviously won the championship. And that was nice to do that, you know, because it was the last year that I had with working with my dad and my family as like more of a privateer type team. And it felt nicer to be able to almost reward them with that. Like so many years of hard work, even from down to motocross. You know, like it's always been me and my dad out the back of a van, and to get that done in 2021, that's obviously been the highlight of my career so far. And yeah, now last year got the opportunity of FHO racing BMW, and we just didn't quite have something to put together for this year, so obviously went in the direction I did, and it didn't end up being the right one. But no, now we're back, and I'm sort of, it almost feels like coming back to FHO a little bit because of Hickey and everyone involved and all the boys. So no, I'm really looking forward to it.
Do you feel the Supersport class is the class for you? Obviously, the last year in Stock 1000, me and you both know that's probably the hardest class other than Superbike in BSB. So, do you feel Supersport is where you want to be or where you need to be then?
I think it's hard to say. I don't feel like there's particularly a right answer. You know, it's one of those. I didn't feel like I had the best opportunities in Superstock going into the year, so I thought, you know, Supersport looked like the right way for me this year. And also with the Motec and everything, I got to, well, almost a taster for what they have in Superbike, and obviously that's the end goal in the next few years to, well, not the complete end goal, but the end goal in this paddock to be in Superbike. So I think that kind of was my thought process there, and it's a good class. Like you say, there's a lot of fast riders, like Tom Booth Amos, World Championship rider as well. Stapleford, he was a champion in 2015, he's got a lot of experience, and for someone like me who's still, I would consider still relatively inexperienced, I think this is my 6th year on tarmac, like, I think that's good for me. You know, I can learn off these riders and just see what they're doing, and it's good to be battling up front and, like I say, just learn.
Do you feel that you're in the right environment as well? Obviously, with Pete as kind of, let's call him a team owner, because technically that's what he is.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you're in the right sort of environment there, because he's probably the most experienced person in this paddock, and really was on the Superbike, kind of, you're probably younger than you really, so he knows where to push you in the right direction, shall we say?
Yeah, definitely. I think not only on the track, Pete has a lot of experience, but off the track, and you see that he takes a bit of a different approach to some other riders, and I feel like if you look anywhere, you'll see in public, you'll see a lot of his merch, which is something I actually noticed since I rode the Triumph. I've seen a lot of the Triumph merch just even in London, just people walking about, and I think there's definitely a lot to learn from how he approaches his racing. And you know, he's been kind enough to give me this opportunity, and like I say, also find some more sponsors for me, and even get Triumph, the manufacturer, involved a little bit for the next few rounds. So I think he obviously sees a bit of potential in me, which is nice to know that he believes in me, and it could open doors. So I feel like I'm in the right place for sure.
What's the plan then for the rest of the year? Is it remaining on the Supersport until the end of the year? Is that what fans can expect?
I think at the moment that's what we're looking at. So we'll do the next few rounds, and then we'll have a look from there. We'll just look at the general situation. But I think the sort of the general tone is to try and do the rest of the season, finish out with Pete, and see where that leads. Because like I said, with Triumph involved, you never know what might happen, and never know what I might be able to do on the bike. So that is the plan at the moment, yeah.
Finally then, for people that probably don't know, I'm sure that you want to follow in, is it your cousin's footsteps? Is it your cousin? I can't remember what he is.
Complicated. Second cousin / mate. We just say cousins to make it easier, but yeah, that is the plan. I do a lot of training with Jake, which is nice. He's taken me under his wing as well. I spend a lot of time with him, even as just mates. He likes to take the mick out of me a lot, and also try and make me learn the hard way sometimes. But he's helped me a lot over the years, so it's important for me that I'm around these kind of people, and you know, hopefully that if their experience can rub off onto me, and I can learn something.
I suppose learning the experience from him as well, because more or less you're following in kind of his footsteps, stock 600, then into Supersport, and in that kind of way. So you've got the person behind you who knows all about it.
Yeah, of course, and I think, like you say, he's done it all himself, and he's done it almost the hard way because he didn't have someone like him to bring him up. So he's had to learn the hard way. He's made those mistakes, and that's always helpful for me, because if I ever have a bit of a problem or anything, I can go to him and just see what his opinion is. And you know, I do a lot of training with him, a lot of riding with him, and I think it's brought me on a lot. I did a lot. He was involved quite heavily the year that I won the championship, and we saw that from when I started with him to maybe the end of the year, I'd improved so much. And even off the track, just to learn from him how he approaches his training. And yeah, it's quite funny actually, because he's a real energetic character, and I'm quite a bit more like mellowed out. So we kind of find a balance in the middle, which is funny. So I think we can work well with each other, which no, it's a good thing. And like I say, it's just nice to have someone that's taken me under their wing.
Fantastic. Well, Jack, thanks very much for your time. Good luck this weekend, and good luck for the rest of the year.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Good. Do look out for Jack in the Supersport class this weekend at Oulton Park. Now, speaking of this weekend at Oulton Park, our Bike Social members are going to be with us, aren't they? And they're going to have a lovely time, I'm sure of it.
Well, hope so, hopefully. Yes, so as always, Bennetts customers and Bike Social members get sort of priority access and exclusive access to different things over the weekend. So if anyone's entered the competitions for things like VIP hospitality, grid walk, safety car laps, pillion laps, you all know what I'm about to say. Your email should have landed in your inbox as of this video coming out. If it hasn't, please get in touch with us on social media. I will respond to that for you, and then I'll get in touch with the PR team. I'll get in touch with Chris and Donovan, and we'll get you sorted out if you haven't received those already, but you already should have. For the ones that haven't got those emails, you are still lucky enough to then be able to do different things. So this weekend the pit perch returns.
Great.
Obviously we weren't allowed it at Cadwell Park due to the split paddock, and also it being quite narrow and tight down the bottom. So the pit perch will be back at Oulton Park, so you can literally stand on pit wall and watch a session. We'll also have the exclusive viewing area, which I believe, please don't quote me on this one in case it changes, and don't come up to us saying, well, Michael said on a video. It will be on on top of the podium where it was at the start of this year. So you get a really good view of them coming out of the last corner and then over the start-finish straight. It's a real quite cool experience to do that. Literally, you just have to sign up on the day for that. So come and see us first thing in the morning. They are allocated on a first-come, first-served basis. So come and see us straight away. We'll be where we normally are, which will be opposite the cafe as you pull into the paddock area on the grass bit. How many places will there be per session? Per session, I'm not entirely sure. In terms of the pit perch, we're allowed 4 up on the pit perch. So you need to be up there, like I say, as quickly as possible. Make sure it's your first port of call,
Yeah.
basically. Come and see us.
So there's 4 spaces per session throughout the day,
session on
and
the wall.
we rotate.
And then we can have a few more extra up on the exclusive viewing area. I'm just not entirely sure on the final numbers for that just yet. But you'll need probably a wristband to get through there, because you have to go through the gate and kind of other bits and bats. The terms and conditions, we'll talk about that when we see you at the weekend. So yeah, just come and see us. We're there from all weekend, so we're there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I nearly said Saturday, Sunday, Monday there, because before it was a bank holiday. Now it's not. And yeah, loads of things going on. Come and see us, all nice and friendly. And we'll get you on doing some pretty cool stuff this weekend.
Yeah, you can even, as normal, you can even present the trophies to the winners, and that's of every race, not just the Superbike races. So, or is it? No, it is just Super.
So, well, potentially, I always have to go and see Claire at MSV, and Claire tells me what she needs, and then we have to run around like headless chickens to find people. A pretty cool thing this weekend. I think it's a pretty cool thing anyway. On the Sunday, we have actually sorted out the first Superbike race for the trophy presentation, and it will be young Betsy Rouse will be handing out the trophy. The race-winning trophies for the first Superbike race. Betsy's going to hand those out, and it's real nice thing. It was the last circuit that her uncle Chrissy won at in 2021, so it just kind of fits nicely. So if you see her, just give her a big round of applause, give her a big cheer as she's doing it. I think she's a little bit nervous as well, but she's fairly confident. She's a fairly confident kid, so hopefully she enjoys it. But yeah, just come and see us, and we'll see whether we can get you to do a trophy.
Super job. So you can do all of the above by being either a Bennetts direct customer or a Bike Social member. Those who are direct customers are automatically Bike Social members. Yep. You can alternatively become a Bike Social member if you're prepared to part with £6 a month or £60 a year, and then you get access to all of that good stuff, plus probably 100 different competitions and prizes and discounts and offers and loads of super stuff, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All I will say is, just for the weekend, just screenshot your membership number or your policy number. The signal sometimes, especially on the race day at Oulton Park, is pretty dire. The amount of people in just one place is a bit of a nightmare. So just give it as just a screenshot on your phone. That's all we need to see. You just need to show us it. And it's yourself and a +1 as well, which is really cool. So even if your +1 is not a Bike Social member, they get the same perks as you do.
Mega. Good. And if you haven't yet signed up to our Facebook page, it's Bennetts Bike Social. That's another one to mention. Bennetts Bike Social on the Facebook. So it's in a sort of a closed group. There's a couple of thousand people in there already. And we just have a bit of a chat, really. It's nice. There's loads of sort of racing, non-racing advice and help, and just fun times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good. All right, Mr. Burton, thank you very much. Enjoy Oulton Park. And thank you very much for joining us. Hope you've enjoyed it. Any comments, questions, thoughts, queries, mystic ideas of what might happen at Oulton Park or afterwards, or who's going to move where? If you heard any rumours, let us know. I asked for jokes last time. I haven't had one yet. So shame on you. But no, look, thanks, and we'll see you next time.